Welcome back to Gems with Genesis Amaris Kemp. Here with me today is Chris Miles, and we are going to discuss passive income and how to acquire it now. But before we jump in, here's a bit about Chris. Chris is very multifaceted. He's known as the cash flow expert and an anti-financial advisor, is a leading authority teaching entrepreneurs and professionals how to get their money working for them today. He is an author, podcast host of the Chris Miles Money Show, has been featured in US News, CNN Money, Entrepreneurs on Fire, Bigger Pockets, and has a proven reputation with his company. Money Ripples, getting his clients fast financial results. In fact, his personal clients have increased their cash flow by over 250 million in the last 11 years. Yes, you heard me right. Over 250 million. And without further ado, welcome Chris Miles to the Gems podcast.
Such a pleasure to be here.
Thank you, Chris. And let's just jump right in. So I read your bio. I know there's definitely more to Chris Miles than you put on your bio because you only can put so much about yourself. So give us a fun fact and let the audience know, why did you start doing what you're doing now?
Yeah, I started doing what I was doing unintentionally, right? Which is kind of how life leads you, I started out initially, I was going to college and I was going to go into business consulting. That was my goal. But I thought if I was going to do that, should I have a real business experience, not just book smarts, right? So before getting my bachelor's and going to get my MBA, I dropped out. I said, all right, I'm going to be an entrepreneur. What am I going to do? And the first opportunity that came up was becoming the traditional financial advisor, right? Becoming the mainstream financial advisor, AKA salesman in a suit. And I started doing that. And although I was learning a lot of different things about money, I really loved being an entrepreneur, to the point that I actually dropped out of college. I didn't finish getting my degree at all. Didn't get my MBA. Plus, sociology degree. So what, So I actually stayed out. I dropped out, became an entrepreneur. Now, 4 years later, as I was an entrepreneur and being a financial advisor and that sort of thing, I started to realize that things were broken, right? Because, if you've ever met with financial advisors, they kind of suck, right? They're always telling you to put your money in somebody else's company, somebody else's stock, when you realize as an entrepreneur, I should be putting money in my own stock, my own company, making way more money than their possible maybe 10, 12% a year, right? But they're always telling you to do that stuff. And so I started looking at evidence. I'd like to know that things work. And as I started to see people that had decades of advice, they weren't financially free. And it really came to a head. And at the end of 2005, I was talking to a friend of mine. He had left to go do real estate investing. I thought, oh yeah, sure. Good luck with that. You're going to be broke. Well, quite the opposite was true. 4 months later, him and his dad had actually doubled their income as a professor at that local university. And I said, come on, that's too good to be true, right? Which is what we always hear. And he said, no, we're doing it. And finally, we got in this debate about what's really better, stocks or real estate. And he finally just stopped me. He said, Chris, how many of your clients are actually financially free where they don't worry about money? And I thought, well, none, because they all worry about money. Because if they watch the news, you're going to worry about everything. You think the sky is falling, right? So everybody worries about money. So I said, none of my clients are really financially free. He was like, well, good job, Chris. Way to go. Well, how about this? How many of you guys as financial advisors are financially free, not off the commissions you're earning, but actually doing the investments you've been recommending, like in these mutual funds? And I thought about it. I said, well, I know there's guys in our office been working there since the late 70s, and they're still needing to work they're still in the rat race. So none of them were financially free. He said, well, there's your problem. I'm like, well, okay, well, tell me the answer. He's like, I won't tell you the answer because you were just being a jerk to me about why stocks are so much better. I'm like, no, I'm open. I'm willing to admit that I'm wrong here. Give me something. And so he had me go get this Robert Kiyosaki book, not Rich Dad, Poor Dad, which I'd read a few times before, but one called Who Took My Money, which says pretty much why mutual funds stink, right? And then he had me listen to this AM talk radio show, pre-podcast days, right? And I started listening to these guys that were real estate investors, and to the point where after a few months, I realized I couldn't be a financial advisor and feel like I'm in integrity anymore. I knew that it didn't work. I knew that I was teaching something that was wrong. And even though my pocketbook was tied to it, I had to quit. So 2006, March, I said, I'm done. I'll never teach about money again. I'm just going to go and, be a mortgage broker and teach ballroom dancing, right? Because that was one of the things I used to do, was be one of the nation's top amateur ballroom dancers.
Oh,
And
wow. That's a fun fact right there.
I know, kind of an interesting fun fact, right? Another weird one, and I just remembered this last night. I was going for a walk. 2001, right at the beginning, I actually was made it to the quarterfinals of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. So lots of useless information in this head of mine, right? But any case, but I actually wanted to know what these guys knew, and so I actually started to apply the things they learned, focus on cash flow, not just accumulating money in the stock market. And the next thing I know, I was able to be financially independent at 28 years old and by the summer of 2006. And that
Let's
blew my mind.
let's pause right there really quick, Chris, because what I heard so far is that you had a paradigm shift. You made fun of
Mhm.
your friend talking about, oh yeah, real estate investment. You're not really going to
Mhm.
make any money because you were so caught up in the stocks. But then once you
Yeah.
saw the metrics and you saw, the proof in the pudding that him and his dad, they were both professors, right?
No, just his dad was.
His dad
Yeah.
was a professor and
Mhm.
he made four times the amount. And you're like, oh my gosh, this is too good to be true. Is
Mhm.
that the moment when you had that paradigm shift and that aha moment?
That was the moment that I said, okay, I'm open, but the paradigm shift really happened. It took till about, I mean, it started happening gradually from January through March of that year of 2006. But by the time I went to one of the events that these real estate guys put on, they started ripping apart financial advisors. And they even asked, there's 100 people in the room. They said, they're like, hopefully there's no financial advisor room. Anybody financial advisors? I went to raise my hand, realizing my hand was the only one going up. I quickly brought it down because I
Wait,
didn't
wait,
want
wait,
to be
wait.
embarrassed.
Why did you bring your hand down? You should have been proud and been like, yeah, I was a financial advisor. But here's the kicker. Now I'm in a paradigm shift and I'm
Mm-hmm.
learning what you guys are teaching because that would show them that, okay, because how many people are really honest in those rooms and really put their hands up.
Yeah.
You probably weren't the only one that was a financial advisor, but you could have been the only brave one that raised your hand. And then, they could ask you questions and then you could kind of talk about your world and then talk about their world and how you're
Mhm.
merging the two together and how you left that other world because someone gave you the playbook and said, this is what I'm doing. This is how it's working for me. Here are the
Mhm.
metrics, and boom.
Yeah, well, that's the thing is like they brought up so many common sense things, right? Like for example, we always hear things like high risk creates high returns. I mean, think about risk. The definition of risk is chance of loss. When did a 90% chance of losing become a 90% chance of winning? Like that doesn't add up to 100%, does it? That stuff doesn't work. And then things like, you're in it for the long haul. Well, if the market goes down, that long haul just gets longer. That's what happened to my dad in Y2K. Like my dad thought if this stock market keeps going up, this is how people feel right now, by the way. Like if this stock market keeps going up, I'm going to be financially free in my 50s, right? Nope. He had to work 15 more years because of what the stock market did during Y2K. Like that's the kind of stuff that people buy into, and I was buying into. And then to see that these guys were multimillionaires in their 20s and 30s, and I know guys that are in their 60s and 70s as financial advisors, not in that place. I thought, wait a minute, maybe I'm missing something.
And now this would be a great segue, because we're going to pivot here
Mhm.
because that's so true what you're saying that these financial advisors they feed people with a lump of crop or they tell you about the stock market and
Uh-huh.
then they're like, yeah, just keep riding the wave. Or whenever you call them, oh, I'm thinking about pulling my money out. No, don't pull your money out because this is just how the market goes. It's going to have
Mhm.
that pendulum. And then before you know it, you're losing thousands. And then even though I'm young, I'm a millennial, y'all, but I'm very conservative when it comes to money. But then if you guys were talking to my husband, he's very aggressive. And I'm like, no, 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 nobody, no, we're not about to lose all our money
Mhm.
following pipe dreams. So now let's segue into how do you make passive income now? Because I feel like so many people right now are either going through the great resignation. And for those of you who are listening, it's the moment where people have woken up due to the pandemic that they enjoyed staying at home. They feel like they could get all their work done. And plus, they have that time to spend with their family because if they're spending eight hours a day on someone else's clock in their building, they're not pouring that time back into their family. There's other reasons why we're going through the great resignation. There's workplace culture issues, the lack of DE&I, which is diversity, equity, and inclusion. Plus, if you factor in equality, that's another big thing. And there's so many things that are going through there. But what I found out is as people are going through the great resignation and they're starting their businesses, Chris, they're going into the entrepreneur bucket. They're also worried about healthcare because when you're running your own business, healthcare could be very pricey until you start making the money that you want to make. So let's kind of debunk that. And then let's really talk about how can someone change their mindset and think about passive income now, because I truly believe you definitely need to have a a residual income always coming in and multiple streams of income. And the reason why I say that was because I spent 12 years in oil and gas. And I was recently laid off in February. And oil and gas, you
Mm.
get paid extremely well. But then my aha moment was, this is not my company. I'm never going to be the CEO of this company. And just like that, they can let you go whenever, the price of oil is not doing good or something's not doing good, because
Mhm.
it's profit over, people.
Yeah, you brought up a lot of great points. I mean, the biggest thing right now is that this should have been a warning call for us, right? 2020 going into 2021 should have been that warning call saying you need to get your crap in order, because eh, I mean, like you just mentioned, I mean, like you realize that, of course, your job is not a guarantee. That thing that was supposed to be secure wasn't secure. And even as an entrepreneur, we found out last year we're not even secure as an entrepreneur, because what if we get labeled as a non-essential business, right? I mean, we had so many people. Exactly. There's people shut down for a couple months, and a lot of businesses could make it if they didn't have enough cash on hand, right? So there's a lot of things that happened that just got slapped in our face. That should be the wake up call to say, I need multiple streams of passive income coming in outside, even if you're in business, even outside your business and inside your business. And so let's talk about a few of those things, right? Because again, as a financial advisor, I was always thinking you had to save up money for the long haul, save in the stock market, let it grow, and then you live on less than the interest, right? Yeah, exactly. That slow little climb, and that's been the case. But I'll tell you, like even among the millennials, especially lately, I've seen right, the FIRE movement, the financially independent retire early movement, is so big in this. Like, oh, the stock market's amazing. I'm going to be able to retire next year because I'm going to live on 4%. Here's a few problems with that. One, the stock market for the last 12 years has been up over 14%. The average for the 30 years, though, is like 8.4% of a real return in the S&P 500, not 14, 8.4, which means that we're more than double what it is. In fact, we're going to the 13th up year in a row of the stock market. You understand that that's never happened in the history of the stock market. Before, the record was 6 years in a row. Now we're at 13. So the higher it flies, the harder it's going to fall, right? So don't think that you're going to be safe there. Two, that 4% rule, where you save up $1 million and then you can live on 40,000 a year, which, by the way, kind of sounds crappy when you think about it. You're like, that's like a broke millionaire. Like I'm barely above the poverty line there, but still 40,000 a year, right? At 4%, that's actually been shown to be not proven well, right? That doesn't work well nowadays with the lower interest rates, higher inflation, all that kind of stuff. In fact, the number should be more like 3%, which means if you have $1 million you saved up, you should only be living on 30,000 a year, not 40,000. And that's before you pay taxes. Because if you put in dumb 401ks and IRAs, they don't help you. So what's the answer, right? Is going in what they call alternative space. Now, some people say, oh, I'm a conservative investor. I don't do anything crazy, right? But the truth is that you're comfortable. I call those people comfortable savers, right? You're a comfortable saver because the rest of the world's doing it. You think it's safe to do it. But the truth is that if the average American is not becoming financially free, why would you follow their advice? Why would you do the same things they're all doing? You want to do something different that actually has been proven to work. So like, for example, for me, the thing that was a big aha, the paradigm shift especially, was seeing hope, right? This is what got me before I was able to quit. I was like, okay, I got to get out of here, because I realized, wait, I got to take that same $1 million and say it's focused around cash flow, not growing your money, not banking on appreciation, not banking and gambling on things growing, but instead getting paid regular, stable income. So for example, a rental. And some people are like, oh, real estate's horrible. No, I don't care if it goes up or down. If I get paid good rent, I don't care. And so, for example, if I 3 years ago, I bought a property in Memphis. By the way, I live in Utah. I buy all my properties in the East. I don't buy anything in the Western half of the US because it's crappy out here, right? It's just not good returns.
Oh my gosh. You're the second person that I've had on this podcast that lives
Mhm.
somewhere different than where they buy their real estate property. I'll have to share that segment with you. His name was Axel Meerhofer, and he kind of gave me the play on that. So I was like, uh-huh. So go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, I didn't think that was possible either. I would always buy my backyard, and that was a horrible idea, you know. But buying from like turnkey companies, for example, there's a company called Turnkey Companies you can buy from that they have the list of properties like a buffet. They even tell you what the returns are going to be ahead of time, and then you buy it. All you have to do is finance it if you're going to finance it, and then the rest of it they property manage it. You don't do anything. You're not a landlord. You are simply the person that finances the property. You own it and control it, but you don't deal with the headaches. You don't deal with the tenants, toilets, and trash that way, right? Um, yeah.
So then question there, I want you to explain what a turnkey provider is for the audience because
Mhm.
they may have forgotten since, a few segments back with
Yeah.
Axel.
Yeah. So pretty much what they do is they find the properties for you. They might be the ones that actually bought and sold to you and renovated it, right? Sometimes they're just out there looking for properties that have good returns. They're looking for ones that generally will have positive rent. So after you pay their property management fees, because they'll property manage it, they'll find the property for you. They'll even hook you up with a lender. You know, if you need a lender to help you do it, they'll hook you up with a lender. They take care of everything for you except for buying the property. That's your responsibility. So you buy the property, but they're the ones that actually manage the property and you get paid the rental profits.
So then question, whenever you are looking to buy that property, do you always have to have all the money up front, Chris, or do you because I know nowadays there's multiple people who they want to buy property, but they may not necessarily have all the money, but they go in with a pool of other investors. So then you could kind of share that property in a sense. Or what have you done and what has worked for you?
Yeah, generally you can do a down payment. So if you're just starting out, 20% down payment's all you need. You know, so like that property I bought in Memphis, I bought it for about 135,000, put $32,000 down on it. That's with closing costs, right? After closing costs and everything. But I started getting paid over 300 bucks a month right from day one. You know, so I was making about a 1% a month or 12% a year profit, right? Not, you know, that's after the mortgage is paid. By the way, they pay down your mortgage for you, right? Any appreciation you get, because now that property is worth 205,000, all that appreciation is a multiplier effect. Just so you know, I only put 32,000 into it, but now the total returns I've had is almost $100,000 in the last 3 years, right? Think about that. That means I've tripled my money in 3 years.
And that's
Even
amazing.
that,
'Cause
even with the stock market, that's not even close to anything they can do. And by the way, I don't pay any taxes on that money because I write off everything with I can depreciate the property and all that kind of stuff. So there's all these tax benefits you can do to keep all the money you earn, right? Or at least most of it. And yeah, you can buy it in cash, but I like to use the bank. I like to leverage the bank, get cheap money because, you know, that 20% down there, if there's any appreciation, if there's a 10% appreciation in that, right? Say you bought $100,000 property, you know, you put $20,000 down on it, it appreciates 10%, it appreciates 10,000. But that's not a 10% rate of return for you because you only put down 20%. You put down 20,000. You get all that 10,000 appreciation, right? So your 20,000 made 10,000, which is a 50% return. So you get this 5 multiplier on any appreciation you get. Again, I've learned since the last recession, never bank on appreciation. It's just icing on the cake, right? But even then, like I get paid almost 500 bucks a month on the same property because rents go up every year, you know, and things like that. So, and yeah, I mean, I'm still buying. So that's one way, but that's not the only way you can generate passive income. You mentioned like pooling money together, right? There's things out there called like syndications where you can pull your money together, buy into like apartment building or a self-storage unit. You know, that's always a fun one, especially if you go into a recession, because a lot of times if people downsize, they move their junk into the self-storage units, right? And you're not dealing with tenants. You don't have to worry about evicting people. They just lock you out and then kick your stuff out and either sell it off or auction it off or whatever, or, you know, just say, here, take it back. You stop paying. They just lock you out. You know, there's all kinds of things you do there. You mentioned like oil. You've been in the oil industry. Like we just put $50,000 into a mineral rights company where they actually go and they lease the land to, you know, companies like Exxon Mobil and people like that. And they pay out like easily 10 to 15% a year, and they're paying out monthly, you know, so we're getting regular income just coming off the profits of that, you know, and actually it's probably closer to almost 15 to 20%. I just don't want to overpromise anything, right? Because who knows, but,
yeah, you don't
I
want
mean, that's,
anyone to hold you accountable to that.
yeah. I mean, that's the thing is like everything's varied. I mean, I even did a partnership with somebody who does land leases where they buy raw land. They either sell or finance it to somebody where they become the bank and they finance it for somebody else to buy, or they sell it, just flip it. to them, right? Or whatever it might be to make a profit. Already in the last 3 months, they've already made over 70% return on my money, So that's the kind of stuff that, here's the funny thing. Stocks, people are like, yeah, but you can make money in stocks. You can, but there's one, zero tax breaks. And don't think an IRA or 401k gives you tax breaks. They just delay your taxes. There's zero tax breaks with those. They just push you off to the future. And do we really trust our taxes are going to be less in the future, especially with inflation? I mean, that's a big gamble right there, right? And then two, here's the thing is that I know I just keep going, right? But here's the biggest thing, right? Is that when I'm buying assets, I'm buying real assets. Stocks and mutual funds, they're not real assets. They're arbitrary. They can go up and down. They may not go to zero, but they can go up or down on a daily basis. The things I buy, if they move slowly. They don't move overnight. And so it's not like I'm gambling in Bitcoin and crypto as much. I have some of that, but that's a teeny piece that I'll put in there that I think, hey, if it makes money, great. But if I lose it, it does nothing to my wealth, right? That's kind of how I invest.
So I just want to recap before we wind down. So some of the ways that Chris Miles is investing to create his passive income is rental properties. So he's buying properties. He does not buy them where he lives, but he buys them out of state. Oil reserves, he mentioned mineral rights. He also mentioned syndications, where you could put your money with other people who are interested in buying assets where they're not worrying about, oh, where's the money going to come from? Because they have other people that are effective players that are putting their money in a pool to either buy, storage units, to buy apartments, or whatever the case may be. So those are some ways that you can make passive income. He will definitely share other ways too. So make sure you connect with him on his platform. And we could also have him back for a part 2 if you're eager to learn more. But Chris, I want to be respectful of your time. And I want you to tell the listeners as well as the viewers once again who you are, how they could connect with you on social media, and leave us with your CTA, which is call to action.
Yeah. So my call to action, I would say, is follow my podcast, The Chris Miles Money Show, right? You can follow us there on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, whatever. It's at Money Ripples, which is also our website, moneyripples.com. You can check out some stuff there too.
And there you have it, listeners and viewers of GEMS podcast with Genesis Amaris Kemp. You just heard Chris Miles, and he's the Money Ripples guy. He has a lot of things that he's doing behind the scenes as well as on the forefront. So make sure you plug in with him, follow our platforms, and let us know your comments and feedback on this segment. And until we chat next time, peace, love, and lots of blessings. Have yourself an amazing day. And remember, knowledge is power, and let your money work for you. Don't work for your money.